Hey guys, Ryan here, and in this video I'm going to be covering how you can optimise Windows 11 for gaming. So it's no doubt that when it comes to gaming on the PC platform, Windows is kind of still the king. That's not to say that there aren't devices out there, such as the Steam Deck, which uses a Linux-based system, and it's nothing short of amazing, but it does sometimes unfortunately suffer from issues with compatibility. However, in this particular video, I'm going to be covering how to set up Windows 11 so that you can have the best possible performance for your hardware, especially when playing the latest titles. In this video I'm going to be using my desktop system, which is running the latest version of Windows 11 Pro, and it's paired with an AMD Ryzen 5600X and an NVIDIA RTX 3080. So whether you've got a desktop or laptop yourself, let's crack on with the rest of the video. Okay, so the first step in the entire process is really just to ensure that you're running the latest version of Windows 11, or at least you've got the latest updates installed. Now, despite the fact that Windows, or rather the process of updating Windows, has kind of become a meme at this point, there are many reasons why you'd want to keep your system up to date. For example, newer builds of Windows 11 often include better or improved support for technologies such as HDR, and newer versions of Windows 11 also include built-in support for configuring game devices such as mice or keyboards without having to rely on a third-party software. Now, obviously on a more technical level, there are improvements added all the time to the back-end graphical stack. And of course the main reason that we keep it up to date is security reasons. So to update Windows 11, it's dead easy honestly. Ironically, it's now updating whilst I'm doing this video. What are the chances, eh? Anyhow, right, so the way that you do this is you open up the start menu and you literally search for the word Windows Update. Now, you do have an option within Windows 11 where it says here, get the latest updates as soon as they're available. I personally don't do that, mainly because I like to have everything rolled out on a schedule, and when it comes to Windows, you tend to find that the vast majority of updates are provided on the second Tuesday of each month, or Patch Tuesday as it's known. Now, if there's obviously zero-day exploits or securities, they'll be passed through as soon as they're available. Now, one thing that I will say is don't ever install drivers through Windows Update. And the reason for that is that in most cases you'll find they'll be outdated and potentially buggy. So if you're going to install drivers, install them directly from the manufacturer's website. But in either case, once you've updated your system, just as a good measure, make sure to reboot to finish the process. Okay, so the next step that we're going to look at is updating GPU and CPU chipset drivers. Now in 2024, there are three main graphic card manufacturers out there. You've got AMD, Intel and NVIDIA. And really the process for updating drivers for each of these manufacturers is pretty much the same thing, in that all you need to do is navigate to the manufacturer's website and then run the appropriate software. So for example, if you've got AMD hardware, the software in question is called AMD Adrenalin, and it really allows you just to download and install the latest supported GPU and chipset drivers for both AMD graphics cards and CPUs. Alternatively, if you've got Intel hardware, they offer a program called the Driver and Support Assistance, which, much like AMD, allows you to download and install the latest GPU, CPU, chipset, as well as Bluetooth, wireless and Ethernet drivers if they're applicable. Mainly because Intel does tend to be a lot more aimed at the laptop market, shall we say. Now finally for NVIDIA, since they only manufacture graphics cards, then all you need to do on their website is specify and then search for the model GPU that you own, and then download the GeForce Game Ready driver. So when you do a search for your graphics card, you might find there's two options. You have the GeForce Game Ready driver and the NVIDIA Studio driver. As a general rule, if you're going to be gaming, you want to stick with the first one, which is the GeForce Game Ready driver. But if you're more into content creation, then it's the NVIDIA Studio driver you're going to be using. The only real difference is that the game driver will typically support newer technologies that may be slightly buggy, less tested. But in either case, once you finish installation, your drivers are up to date. Once again, don't forget to reboot your system for good measure. Now, really at this stage, you're about 99% done with the whole process. And despite what several websites or indeed other content creators may claim, Windows 11 does not need you to mess around with the registry or use debugging scripts in order to get the best game performance. In fact, in my experience, there's only really two things that I recommend you do in Windows 11 to get the best game performance. The first one is to enable game mode, which is a bit of a cryptic piece of software. However, according to Microsoft documentation, it does several different things, but the main ones just to take note of are as follows. Once game mode is enabled, it will allow you to use Auto HDR. When a game is active, it will disable Windows Update in the background. as well as notifications, file indexing, and it also applies certain variable refresh rate optimizations. And then finally, if you have an AMD Ryzen CPU, it will allow you to use better CPU scheduling optimizations. So, in other words, there's not really any reason to why you would turn this off, and in most cases you've found it will be just enabled, you just never know it's there. That being said, if you want to just double check that that is the case, easiest way to find it is if you open up your start menu, type the word game mode. And as you can see, it's literally just toggle on or off. Okay, so the last step that we're going to cover is to enable the high performance power plan. And what this does is by selecting this particular power plan, it sets your hardware to run at the highest or fastest performance options that they support. So in other words, your CPU is now going to run at its highest clock speed rather than clock it up and down, which can cause stuttering in certain games. And more importantly, your wireless cards will, if you've got Wi-Fi built into your system, will actually operate at maximum power, which does increase the throughput and range, which obviously for multiplayer games, it's a non-brainer. Now, downside of course is that if your system has these enabled, it will in theory consume more power, but for the case of a desktop, the difference is kind of negligible at this point, but the performance gains that you'll get from it are definitely worth it. Now for laptops, I'd just recommend you plug in the battery, but then again, if you've got a quote-unquote gaming laptop, you don't actually get the best performance unless you powered it up anyway, so again, it's kind of a moot point. So in order to enable the high performance power plan, easiest way to do it is, once again, if we open up our start menu, and if we just type in power plan. And from here you have balanced, which is usually the default, high performance, and then power saver. Like I said, it's literally just a case of clicking between the two of them, or three of them in this case, and just leaving it as that. That's it. Now in terms of this video, there's not really much more that I need to cover. However, if you want to maybe expand it a little bit, one area that you could consider looking at is updating the BIOS of your motherboard, and that's mainly just for hardware support and security fixes, or even look at updating the firmware of your storage media, but that's really beyond the scope of this particular video. But in either case, assuming that you now keep your drivers and Windows up to date, then failing a hardware fault, you should now be operating at your top gaming performance based on what you've actually got. And really, that's it. So in conclusion, Windows 11 is an excellent gaming platform. And whilst you can go down the rabbit hole of disabling services, applying registry fixes, running scripts, blah blah blah, it's just simply not worth the trouble. The fact of the matter is a modern gaming PC doesn't need any of that. So just keep it simple, stupid, and keep your hardware and drivers and system up to date, and then you're golden. As always, thanks for watching this video today, and if you found it helpful, then please don't forget to leave a like, share the video, and smash that subscribe button to see more content like this in the future. As always, thanks again, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye then.